I want to suck your totemic energy. Welcome back to another figure review. Look, there's Miles Morales looking like an absolute Miles Badass. Am I right? He looks amazing. This is the Armadillo wave of figures from Marvel Legends, mostly focusing on characters from the movie Spider-Man No Way Home, but with a few exceptions, including comic book characters. This is Morlun, which I believe is the correct pronunciation. I've been calling him Morlun ever since this guy first rocked up in the JMS run of Spider-Man, in the stories with Ezekiel. I have been part of that minority that absolutely loved it. Not necessarily him, he's cool, but the story, oh my god, and that conclusion when Aunt May comes into Peter's apartment and finds the tattered remains of the costume. Incredible. And I love that this guy was just seemingly unstoppable. I then think when he popped back up in the other, that was fun. The stakes felt very real because you really remembered how much it cost Peter Parker to deal with him the first time. And then I liked the expansion of it, the idea of his family, the inheritors in the Spider-Verse comic book. I don't hate Morlun. I like his stories, and as a result, I do quite like Morlun. Will I like his action figure? Let's find out. I think this is his debut in action figure form, actually. Creepy little picture of him on the side there. Peering around a corner, if I remember correctly, watching Spider-Man swinging around. I think that's from the other. Comic nerds, correct me if I'm wrong. I think this is a panel from the other storyline. Maybe. It's part of the Armadillo ongoing wave. Build a figure. As of this posting, there are reviews up for Black and Gold Spidey, Doctor Strange, Miles Morales, and Shriek. No idea if I'm going to be able to pick up Integrated Suit Spidey. He seems to have vanished in the UK already. And J. Jonah Jameson is proving to be the white whale of this series. Like, he's not available anywhere, and in some places he's not available till February. Morlun, from the darkness, the vampire Morlun, simplifying it, hunts Spider-Man in an effort to slay the superhero and feed on his powers. He's actually a totemic vampire. He's not a vampire. And he drains the life force from spider totems. He's nigh unstoppable, and the only way he's been defeated, really, in the past is with giant doses of radiation. And even then, he still came back, and in Spider-Verse, we learned how that's possible. So, Morlun. They seem to be leaning in on the vampire aesthetic for this toy. Will the action figure suck your blood? Morlun's doing a jig. Morlun's doing a jig. Mostly because I want to show you his articulation. So Morlun has the dreaded flipping boot cut. Oh god, I hope they retire this sculpt soon. I'm also hoping that the size and weight of him, which is actually quite light. He's a very light figure. I'm hoping that will help him stand up better. But god damn these boots. They bend forwards and pivot sidewards. They have a swivel because of the ball joint they're attached to in the ankle of the trouser. He has a double knee joint which bends like so. Looks a little bit ugly. He has a bend at the top of the thigh and the usual crotch joint. The middle on Morlun is pretty unusual. He has a waist swivel. And if you look very closely underneath, there is a sculpted shirt. There is also a rib crunch. Like, it's in there. So you can have him a little more hunched or stood up straight. But it's impeded somewhat by this rubber suit sculpt, which just take a look at for a moment. It's a big, top and tails kind of jacket. Buckles on the back, that's a nice detail. I do like the creases, I think that's good. It's a singular piece that encompasses the waistcoat and the jacket. Probably would have been less restrictive on the figure if the torso were just designed with this on it. And then the jacket, the coat with the rubber piece. But the fact that that's rubber does mean that it is hampered somewhat. He has a cravat with a red jewel in it. His shoulders move up, down and around. He's got a pivot in his upper arm. Double elbow joint, which because of a chunky coat looks kind of odd. From the side, not so much, but that way, oof, weird. His wrist twists and bends, and he has his head on a peg joint, but because of the hair sculpt, it can only really move side to side. There's something weird about him. Again, correct me if I'm wrong and I'm misremembering, but since when did Morlun have suckers in his hands? Pretty sure he doesn't have suckers in his hands. Do you know who did have suckers in his hands? Morbius in the 90s animated cartoon. Morbius the Living Vampire. So, one of two things has happened here if he doesn't have these in his hands. One, whoever designed this figure kept misremembering which character this was, hence why he's referred to as a vampire a lot on the packaging, and hence why he has these sucker hands from the 90s animated series version of Morbius. The other thing that could have happened is we're getting a Spider-Man Classics Wave Morbius figure at some point, and these hands will be on that figure, and I guess they just decided to also give them to Morlun because he's an energy vampire. Like Colin Robinson. I don't know. I don't know what the reason behind the decision was, but it's not a deal breaker. It's just very odd. His hands are big and beefy and open, which means it's perfect for him to like grab Spider-Man's neck or you know, be holding on to some debris or doing what he likes to do best in his fights with Spider-Man, just grabbing innocent bystanders and throwing them around, because the more distracted Spider-Man is, the easier it'll be for Morlun to get closer to him. I like the colour on this a lot. The black boots are nice and shiny. The trousers are a wonderful sort of dark grey. The silver waistcoat feels a little weird. I feel like it should have been an off-white rather than silver. But whatever. The cravat's a nice blue. The jacket has a really nice sculpt, especially the big, chunky sleeves. The jacket I'm wearing and the panto that I'm in right now has similar sleeves, and I do like a big sleeve. And the head sculpt is not bad at all. Like, it's nice and sinister. It's a little less Morlun, a little more Dracula, Marvel's Dracula. Again, with the vampire comparisons. But I don't hate it. It's one of two sculpts he comes with, because the other one is his only accessory, this spare head, which has sort of more... The hair's different, isn't it? Slightly. There's some people out there looking at this and trying to figure out how to do a Kayvan Novak figure based on what we do in the shadows. Yeah, oh, no, it's the same. The hair is exactly the same. But the sculpt is a frown with his mouth, kind of. Is that his gums? I think that's his gums. He's sort of like just baring his teeth, but it also kind of looks like he's giving it a bit of underbite, which Morlun doesn't really have because he's all teeth. Very unusual. Unusual choices. Nice to have the option, though. I do like the fact that it's becoming more and more common to either have a load of hands or a spare head. Speaking of a load of hands, Armadillo! We've got my first Armadillo. Which obviously when we eventually get to do the Build-A-Figure, we'll look at in more detail. But it really goes to show, once again, the scale of the Build-A-Figure in this wave, that the arm is almost as big as Morlun himself. Come here, pal. We're going to pose you and show you off to this lot. Morlun is coming to get you. 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 Spider-Man. But not that one, because you're from the films. He looks pretty good, actually. He's got a decently imposing figure. Doctor Strange is of average height. Morlun is roughly of average height as well. If a tiny bit taller than your average Marvel legend. Which is good. I wish he was bigger. Morlun in the comics is sort of very, very striking. Very imposing. I kind of hoped he was taller and a little heavier so he could balance on his stupid, weird boots that they always keep giving the characters that wear formal shoes. Stop it, Marvel. Marvel. Stop it, Hasbro. Stop it. Create better shoes for your figures that make them stand up. Don't hate him, though. And my Spider-Man villain shelf back home will look nice with the addition of the two comic book villains that this wave has provided us, Shriek and Morlun. And I still stand by what I said, that because it's a Mark Bagley sculpt, someone could customise this into a Mary Jane from Ultimate Spider-Man. But the point is, Morlun, what do you think of him? I think he looks pretty good. Do you like him? Would you add him to your collection? Let me know in the comments below. If you'd like to help me with more toy reviews, you could go to my Amazon wishlist, which is in the description, and pick up a toy for me. Of course, you get a shout out and a special mention in the video. But you don't have to do that at all. You're under no obligation. You can just wait for me to put toy reviews up when I buy toys, like these guys. But you could help me out by liking the video and leaving a comment down below. I will hopefully see you soon for the 2 missing figures in this wave, the integrated suit, which has nothing to do with the Build-A-Figure, and Jameson, who's proving so difficult to find, to help me finish Armadillo. But likely before we find him, I have one other separate series figure to talk about. But more on him next time. See you soon.